So today we're going to talk about sleep and its relationship with health, fitness, and weight loss. I'm Tyler, and this is the After the Run video podcast where I talk about my weight loss journey as someone who's been morbidly obese most of my life, lost 100 pounds, gained most of it back, and now I'm trying again. I'm a school teacher, a video creator, a father of four, and a busy guy, and I've struggled with my weight all my life. So this video podcast was set up for accountability for me, but I've invited you to join me on the journey. Now each week I pick a relatively easy health challenge to complete during the week, and then I report back to you on how it went, what I learned, and then I set a new challenge for the week. And this week we're going to talk about sleep. So the challenge was simply to learn more about sleep, and in particular to plug in my own data, my own sleep schedule, and see what are the things that I'm doing that is making the biggest impact on sleep. Now, common sense and decades of medical research has told us that good sleep does impact our health and our diet and our weight. Well, if good sleep leads to a healthier lifestyle, what leads to good sleep? Obviously, there's going to be some correlation there. But I knew that healthy eating would lead to better sleep. Time of eating would lead to better sleep. And amount of exercise and when you do that exercise would lead to sleep. So what I did is I took my spreadsheet from last year where I track a lot of these things. What am I eating as far as am I having desserts or snacks or eating late on certain days? I kept track of that. I kept track of my workouts and how much I was working out and the intensity of those workouts. And I have a big spreadsheet and I just plugged it into ChatGPT. I also had a tracker from my watch that kept track of what would be considered a good night's sleep. So good or great as opposed to low, fair, or bad. And I checked a box every day that I had a good night's sleep on that spreadsheet, put that into ChatGPT and simply had it added up. How many days of good sleep did I have? And did my good days come on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, and add all those up? Now, what I learned was that I only had good sleep about half of the time, a little bit less than half the time. But what was striking was that on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday, it was about 50% of the time I had good sleep. On Friday and Sunday, I only had good sleep about 1/4 of the time. So what was different about Friday and Sunday? You can probably guess what those differences were. Number one, those were the day I was most likely to eat poorly, and in two different ways. I would go out to eat, I'd have greasier foods like pizza, those kinds of things, and I would have snacks, but also I would eat later in the day on the weekends. So on Friday especially, I'd typically eat, we'd have pizza as a family or something, and then before I went to bed, I'd have a snack, typically buttered popcorn. And so I was curious about that, and I plugged that into ChatGPT and I said, what's worse, having pizza at 6 p.m. or buttered popcorn at 9 or 10 p.m.? What do you think the result was? I was actually a little surprised to learn that, at least according to AI, the late night snacking was having a bigger impact on my sleep than eating poorly at dinner time. So that's something to consider for this week. There was also a correlation of Friday and Sunday being my lowest exercise days. In fact, most Fridays and Sundays I didn't exercise at all. At least I didn't measure any cardio. And so that is something to consider as well. Does doing some sort of exercise, cardio exercise, going walking, things like that, does that have an impact on your sleep even if you do it in the morning? And my data suggests there's probably at least some small correlation there. So what does this mean for me moving forward? Obviously, I should eat better, but if I'm gonna focus on baby steps, maybe it stops or starts with stopping late night snacking whenever possible. Now, I like late night snacking, especially if I'm watching a movie, and buttered popcorn is my vice of choice. And so we'll get into this with my challenge for next week, but I think I can make some adjustments to that, will make some impact in my life. So that's one thing that I've learned. The other thing to consider here is the impact of exercise. Now, I know there are a lot of people out there, and some of you have already been in the comments that say exercise makes no difference on your physical health. It's all the diet, which I think we all can agree is a lie. Does diet have a bigger impact on your weight? Probably. Can exercise definitely make you better? Yes, it can. And so if we're trying to be healthy, not just skinny, exercise should be part of what we're doing. So let's talk about exercise for a minute. As a busy father and professional, obviously I don't have unlimited time to exercise, nor do I only want to do the exercise that's going to lead to the better health result. I want to enjoy my life. Part of the reason I'm getting healthy is I want to enjoy my life. I'm not going to enjoy my life if I hate everything I eat and I hate all exercise. So there has to be some kind of balance there. This last week, I went running 3 times. I did 6 miles today, and I enjoyed it. That's my time to catch up on podcasts, to think about the important questions of my life, and to just be centered and grounded. I enjoy going running, but I can't do it every day. Now on Saturday, I went and played Ultimate Frisbee in the community with my son. It's my first time playing in a while because I've been dealing with a hamstring injury, but it was so fun, and I was really careful not to overdo it. So I sat myself out a few times just to make sure that I was stretching those hamstrings, not overdoing things, not sprinting too much. And I had a blast, and I hope that can continue, where once a week or once every other week I get to go play Frisbee. It's a good bonding thing for me and my son, but also I just love doing it. That's a great form of exercise. I also went hiking this week with my wife, and it was only a short hike, just a 2-miler, but it was good to get out with her. And just like my runs, that's where we talk about important questions. It's where we talk about our kids. I enjoy that, and I like going to pretty places. So that was a fun part of this week as well. So I was definitely exercising. However, I had a horrible week for sleep. And so again, I think exercise might help improve sleep, but I think diet is the bigger thing here. So that leads me to my challenge for week 3, and I'd love for you to join me on this. The challenge is to get rid of late night snacking, at least for a week. Well, let's try it out. And so for me, that means I typically eat between 5 and 6. I'll say after 6:30 p.m., no food consumption at all for a week. Oh, and I forgot to include this in earlier, but I also like to drink 100% juice, and I put that into ChatGPT, and they let me know that drinking juice late at night is going to impact your sleep. So that 6:30 p.m. passed, not just no foods, but no beverages besides water. So that's the only thing I'll consume after 6:30 p.m. this week is just water. That's it. So that's the challenge for this week. It's a pretty simple one. I'd love for you to join me on it. Before we end this episode, I am going to take you to the studio to show my numbers for the week so you can kind of see how it's added up over time, see if I lost any weight this week. I don't think I did. And then I'll go ahead and answer any of the comments from this last week, and then we'll put a wrap on it.
All right, hey guys, now we're back in the studio to kind of look over the results for the week and to do some comments. Of course, the challenge for week 2 was to research influences on sleep, but first let's get to the numbers. You see here that as we look at the totals for the week, I actually gained about 2 pounds to 272.2, but I increased my mileage from 11 to 13 miles, and the pace was about the same at 12:03. I did intermittent fasting on 3 days. I had cardio on 4 days, and I only had 2 good sleep days. So my sleep, actually during the week where I researched sleep, was significantly worse. So my overall score for the week, I want to get those scores up into the 20s before too long, but we're getting there a little at a time. If we look at the results of the challenge, you saw, and I talked about this earlier, I only got good sleep 50% of the time last year, but Friday and Sunday seemed to be my challenge days, and so I wanted a new challenge that would address that. So we'll get to that in just a second, but let's look at some of the comments. The first one, I didn't understand it when they first posted excuses, and I didn't know what they were talking about. Like, I make excuses that I'm busy or that I have a lot going on. I don't know. But then they clarified and said, this is Old Natty 61. You're talking too much and overcomplicating stuff. Sorry to talk so much. If you're following conventional running program, you're totally wrong. So thank you for letting me know I'm doing everything wrong. I've acknowledged this in the past, and I'll acknowledge it again. I'm not going to follow conventional wisdom because that didn't work for me either. When you say at the end, eating healthy is very simple, it's not for me. eating healthy is really, really difficult. It's something that I've really, really struggled with for 30 plus years. So it's really easy to say, just do these things. But when you're super busy with a lot of things, juggling a lot of things, and you failed over and over and over, it's not as simple as you're pointing it out to be. So while I appreciate the constructive criticism, for me at least, I don't feel like it is as easy as you're saying it is, which is why I'm here sharing my journey with other people. And I guess I'm not apologizing for who I am. I'm acknowledging that I struggle with this. Ian N9H1J, quite the name. I think that must be the default name YouTube gives you. Says, wish you the best, one day at a time. That's how I'm approaching it. And I love these posts. Right now, I'm also 47. So we're doing this at the same time, Ian. And I'd love to hear how you're doing with your health journey. If you're learning things along the way, I'd love to hear that. Nona IH5LK says, this week focused on eating more protein. So we talked about that a little bit last week with carnivore diet, and have used a calorie tracker to see that I'm in a deficit without getting stuck. That's a great plan. Lost a kilogram, which I think is 2.2 pounds. So that's awesome. Like, that's a good week. Also been walking with the goal of 6,000 steps a day. That's a pretty ambitious goal. More protein has helped with the cravings. And that's what a lot of you suggested, especially if you eat protein earlier in the day, that's going to help keep you satiated. And so I've been trying to do that too. I haven't really kept track of that, but I appreciate hearing from Nona. I felt hungry, but not like I have to have all the junk food. So that is super, super encouraging. One last thing, I pulled his YouTube channel here. If you want to go check out another journey similar to mine, here's 1,000 Miler Man, where he has a challenge this year of doing 1,000 miles. That's walking, running, however it happens. And I watched a few of his videos this week and subscribed, and I loved it. So I want to share that with the rest of y'all. He said, great stuff, starting my own health journey, and have published 80 videos documenting. Again, just like I am, it's mostly for accountability, but he's not getting a lot of engagement. So if you can hop over there and make some comments, I think that would be great. I love that you're doing this, 1,000 Miler Man. Focus on getting the 1,000 miles, better healthy health, better eating, being more in tune with mental state, and keep following to see who does the best. So I'm excited. This isn't going to be a contest or anything, but I think we can support and encourage each other. So I hope that you stay engaged here and we can hear regular updates. And since I'm subscribed to 1,000 Miler Man's channel, I might give you updates from time to time too. All right, so those are our comments for the week. Thank you for those of you who have tuned in. And the challenge for week 3 is eliminate late night eating. And anything after 6:30, whether for me that's giving up juice and the popcorn. That's the big thing. And that's only a few days a week anyway, so this is an easy challenge this week, but hopefully this is one of those challenges that will compound with other challenges and will make a difference in the long run. So that's what we're looking at. Thanks for following along. That is all for now.